video tonight for ACMI.
Great.
Is that right?
Cool.
Great.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
I don't think there was a season.
How do you know? That was Paris.
Not Paris, the rest is
No, she's a friend of mine, right?
No, Paris is not my favorite city.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure she's not
What?
down.
I know that name.
Yeah, you go to the
Trying-
average restaurant.
I mean, I guess at this point, there's multiple ways I can know somebody's name.
But I kind of remember his family.
Yes, exactly. You were included.
It was nice to be back to you.
Yeah.
It's been a little bit of a stretch during these meetings. 1 to 3 hours.
Okay, folks. I apologize for the delay in getting started here. I had to, as I said, I had to restart my laptop. So I needed to re-pull all the things I needed. Okay, folks. Steve, I assume you have, I see there are people in the waiting room. You have let everybody in from the waiting room. Is that true?
With one exception.
Okay.
In the process of coming in.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. We can get started then.
No maps or handouts. We have,
Okay, folks, let's get started. Welcome to the August 15th meeting of the MBTA Communities Working Group. I'm Sanjay Newton, the chair of the working group, and I see, since we're in a mix of places, why don't we just go around and just quickly see who all is here. I see Steve Revelak, working group member and working group member and redevelopment board member. I see Claire Ricker, the director of planning and community development. Is that? Oh, sorry, the video is tiny and you're sitting far away. I can't actually see who's next.
it's Rebecca.
Oh, Rebecca Gruber, yes, working group member, and then
I feel like that number mirror.
Is that Meta next? Yeah. Meta Ahmad, working group member, Vince Badwain, working group member, and I believe that's Kin, closest to me.
Correct.
I believe I am the only working group member who is remote this evening. And I see we have Matthew Littell and Rahi Patel from our consultant UTO who are joining us this evening. Hi to those folks as well. They are on Zoom. Let's see. So tonight's working group session is being conducted in a hybrid format. Please be advised, well, I think you all heard it, a member of the public has indicated they wish to record the meeting. As this is a working meeting, the working group will not be taking public comment this evening. We had a well-attended office hours at the library today, and we also have additional office hours scheduled for August 25th, where you can bring your questions and your comments. Your questions and comments are also, of course, always welcome via email to mbtacommunities@town.arlington.ma.us. And those do, if you indicate, right, those comments do get shared periodically with the working group. Let's see. So with that, those things out of the way, let's get started on our agenda for this evening. The first thing I believe we have on the agenda is to approve minutes from prior meetings. Steve, you have, I believe, August 8th minutes for us to approve.
Yes, I need to seek a couple of clarifications first.
Sure, yeah.
Let me display them and we can just work through it that way. And okay, so note number one, who made the motion for the 350-foot width west of Pleasant Street? Was that you or Mr. Bowden?
I believe that was me.
That was you? Okay. Then we can get rid of that. Oh, I'm sorry, I have the wrong copy of the document open.
While Steve's doing that, can I just ask a quick question? The materials from tonight, when do they get posted on the town's website. I was confused because I thought they didn't get posted until we posted the minutes. But do we post them immediately after?
We try to get them up tomorrow, the day after the meeting, or the next day if we're still collecting
Great.
material.
So everything that we use at the meeting gets posted almost right away. The minutes themselves, we have to wait till they're
Correct.
approved.
Correct.
Thank you.
Alright. I had, actually, the document I was looking at were Maurice's, comments, not the one where I've been collecting everything. Alright, so that one is fine. This one, we have a correction. So the next, the motion to, the motion about having a height in feet in addition to a height in stories, was that Mr. Bowden or Mr. Newton?
I believe it was Mr. Bedwayne. I did not make any motions, I believe.
Okay, and then, so the motion to extend the multifamily district to the Lexington line, I had originally credited that to Mrs. Mott, and she was wondering if you had done that, Sanjay.
I believe I asked if anybody was wanting to make that motion, and Ms. Samat did.
Okay.
Alright. And that is all those are the, couple of clarifications that I needed to make, and there is nothing further.
Great. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the August 8th, excuse me. Motion to approve the August 8th working group minutes.
Second.
Great. And so we will take a vote. And I will go around. Kin.
I'm abstaining, I wasn't here.
Yep. Vince.
Yes.
Meta.
Yes.
Rebecca.
Yes.
And Steve.
Yes.
I'm a yes as well. So the minutes from August 8th are approved, and we will get those posted shortly. Okay, let's move on. We have a quick outreach update on here. Oh, and I see I did not mention earlier that we also have Marissa Lau from the Department of Planning and Community Development joining us via Zoom, and Teresa Marzilli is joining us as well.
And a quick note, Marissa's here in the room, and so is Talia Fox.
Oh, okay, all right. Sorry. Oh, I see. Yes, there you are. Thank you. Sorry about that. I will look around the
Teresa's
table.
on Zoom.
Yes, Teresa's joining us via Zoom, and I think has a quick outreach update for us.
Sure. Yeah, I can just run through what the outreach group is working on currently. So, as Sanjay noted, we had our office hours at the library today. We have another one of those coming up. We are continuing to do farmers market outreach. We are working on a variety of materials that we're hoping we'll be able to flyer and post widely throughout Arlington. We are working on stakeholder engagement. We've been working on that continuously, but we had a nice conversation about that last week. And we are working on building out some additional materials to use with our outreach, a final report, a capacity tutorial, topic-specific FAQs, and building out our slide deck, and as I said, a mailer. And that is kind of all I have for outreach at the moment, unless anyone else from the outreach subgroup would like to add anything.
Oh, and Rebecca, since you did such a good job at it last week, I'll ask you if you see hands that that I haven't acknowledged yet in the room, if you would just tell me of that if I missed them. I
I
appreciate
can
that.
do it.
Yep,
Ken's
thank
waving
you.
his hand at you.
Sure,
Ken,
Ken.
does that mean you had a comment?
I'm just requesting about 10 minutes. I got something to show on my computer with the team, so I just want to make sure I have enough time to show it.
Sure. Just so we know where to fit it in the agenda, what about?
About 2 weeks ago, I showed you guys a 3D model SketchUp
Yeah.
of Mass Ave and Broadway. I took some of you guys' advice and we narrowed it down to a certain area, and do a little, the next progress, that's all, okay?
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
So I just
Okay.
want to show you where we're at, and then more comments. That's all. It's an evolving thing, okay? So don't think it's what I'm showing you
Okay.
today is it.
Yep. Okay. Great. We will make sure we fit that in.
Thank you.
But I think first, yeah, no problem. But I think first we will go. We have our folks from UTO here, and they, I believe, have a map or a presentation to show us based on our requests last week, which were based on their presentation from last week. So I'll turn it over. I don't know if Rahi or Matthew, one of you, is going to present.
I'm happy to present. How's my audio?
It's good.
It's fine for me. How is it in the room?
Fine.
All right, terrific. I will share my screen.
Oh, and sorry, folks. I forgot one of the things in my in my opening little spiel there. Just a friendly reminder that it is hard for folks on Zoom to hear when there are side conversations in the room. I don't think there's been any problem with that so far this evening, but just a note so that people are clear. It really helps to keep the meeting moving if we keep any side conversations down, and I'll remind folks if we need to. So go ahead, Matthew. Sorry about that.
Okay, no worries. We'll start just with a quick recap of the scenarios that we reviewed the last time that we met. And then I'll share a map update, which is based on the feedback that we got, including a version of the meeting minutes that was distributed. I don't think it's substantively different than what I glanced on the screen tonight. Okay, I'll just get right into it. The last time we met, that we had 3 scenarios, A1, A2, and then E1. Both of these scenarios put the multifamily district size on a little bit of a diet, down from 350 to approximately 250 feet off the corridors. And then in this scenario, A1 and A2, we tested 4 stories and then 3 stories. And that's a quick overview of what that looked like. The pink is the neighborhood multifamily, and the blue is the Mass Ave / Broadway subdistrict. And then we were asked to do a sort of a tiered version, which was, what if the height tapered down from the avenues from 4 stories to 3 stories? And we modeled it this way, which was to, I know it's a little small, but to basically take the blue and sort of migrate it a little bit into the neighborhood as an indicator of height, not of bonus eligibility. And then the pink in this case is a kind of 3-story transition zone, if you will, to the neighborhoods. And the punchline is that compared to what we're now calling the base scenario, which was presented at the July 25th public meeting, these scenarios reduce that by about 4,000 up to almost 5,000 units capacity. And I'll clarify that all of these, in all of these cases, we used an open space percentage as a model input, as a kind of proxy for the impact that the side yards and front yards and rear yards would have on the capacity. Just to recap, the numerical model does not process setbacks very well, and so what the state has been doing and what we've been doing is to use an open space percentage as a kind of stand-in for that.
Quick question about that, Matthew, if you don't mind. That is what we will turn into the state with our compliance model. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we will
Thank you.
we will give the state the model automatically automatically, when you have setbacks, the model automatically dumps in a 20% open space.
Yeah.
That's insufficient to describe what the impacts of those setbacks are. You might recall that without that input, we were getting up to about 20,000 units, which was not correct. We were reviewing, what kinds of things were being spit out in individual parcels, and they simply just weren't possible. So we did some homework to establish what's a good, reasonable sort of open space proxy. And it comes out to about 60% in the neighborhood districts and about 40% in the Mass Ave Broadway district.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the summary. And I just, I should have done this at the beginning, but I just, as a reminder, we like to remind everyone every time that this is not a development plan. This is not how many new units will be there. It's a kind of hypothetical estimate of if every single parcel in this area were wiped clean by a tornado or a fire like we're seeing in Hawaii. This is the amount of units that could be built back based on the proposed plan. Okay, so we got some pretty clear direction the last time we met with the working group. The first order of which was to go back to this should say 725 base scenario for Center Heights, my mistake. To go back to that scenario, the 350 foot approximately off of Mass Ave for the Center and Heights area, to bring that back up. The other was to add to that area by extending it to the Lexington town line. You may recall that it stopped short, but we've extended it. And then the third piece was to scale back the East Arlington area, using the alternatives, the sort of blue areas that we had identified in the alternative B1 tiered scenario. So this pulled it back. We started around 350, pulled it back to 250. I would say we are now approximately 150 feet off of the avenues, approximately one parcel behind the avenue, or none if it's a very deep parcel. Plus, we added a few parcels just to maintain the contiguity of that district. This is a town-wide view of what that looks like overall. You'll see, again, Center Heights, we've sort of reverted. You'll see the extension right here, all the way to the Lexington town line. And then in the east, what you're seeing is it's basically a slimmed down version of what we had before. There's 4 stories with bonus eligibility in the blue areas. That's parcels that abut or front on the avenues. And then a step back from that in the gray area are the areas in which we move to the neighborhood district, where there are only 4 stories allowed and the setbacks are greater. So if we zoom in, this is what this looks like. And you'll see something interesting has happened, which is the depth of this district has, to my mind, a nice consistency. And it's consistent a little bit with, some of the bigger parcels that are there, and also where we have commercial sort of pieces, we're sort of filling out the back to create this sort of even depth. And combining the commercial district with these additional potential residential uses to form a slightly more consistent multifamily mixed use kind of zone within a certain tight proximity to the avenue. And then we zoom in on the Arlington Center, Arlington Heights, again, much deeper, and in some cases sort of brought to where it seemed to make sense, a logical edge of a street rather than sort of dangling in the middle of a block. You'll notice that the extension here to the Lexington Town Line is not contiguous with the rest of this. That's okay. What's happened is that this district now is our 50% district. It has, and I'll get into the details of that, but that's basically where we've landed. So the east, the largest district, which is greater than 50% both in capacity and in acreage, is this Arlington Center, Arlington Heights. The second sort of largest chunk is East Arlington, and then the third piece is this extension, which is large enough to be a kind of separate chunk that's over 5 acres. What Rahi's done is he's broken this down into they're basically two districts. In other words, two sets of rules that apply, one to the blue, one to the gray, and there are 3 chunks of each, right? So Mass Ave Broadway East Arlington, we're maintaining the setbacks that were discussed. As I mentioned, we applied a 40% open space sort of proxy to simulate the setbacks. Mass Ave Broadway Center Heights, same thing. And then what we're calling the Mass Ave Broadway Heights extension. That's the piece that goes to the town line, also applying the same rule. And then we've broken this out, again, the same way for the neighborhood district. So East Arlington, Center Heights, and then the Heights extension. And these are the setbacks, again, that we've maintained from last time. There's 4 stories everywhere, with the potential for height bonuses only in the Mass Ave Broadway blue section. As I mentioned before, the Center Heights portion meets our 50% rule. So it comprises 61% of the total land area and 51% of the total unit count capacity. So it's close, but certainly compliant based on the input. You'll notice that the extension, the town line extension piece, is over 5 acres, so that qualifies. And as I mentioned before, the East Arlington pieces together compose a kind of a second biggest chunk, so it's 3 chunks. And this is the sort of story, and I wanted to put it going back to our July 25th meeting base scenario, where we were at about 11,000 units. We are the last time we met, we were ranging between 7,500 and 6,500 and 7,500. Not surprisingly, we've landed a little bit in the middle. So we're about a little over 7,000 with a slightly higher density than we were seeing, except for the alternative A1, so 67 units per acre. Some key, I think, observations about the numbers. There was, I think, some consensus, at least some discussion, both at the public meeting and at the working group meeting last night, that it felt that East Arlington had too much of the capacity. This sort of equalizes it a little bit. You can see, again, the Central and the Heights have 51% of the total unit capacity. That means that 49% of the unit capacity is now in East Arlington. So those things have been sort of equalized. And then if you want the real number, we're down to about 65% to where we were in terms of unit capacity and acreage relative to that July 25th scenario. That's it. I'm happy to take any questions, and I'll go to the overall map.
Sanjay, Kin, and then Meta.
Yeah, I was just going to say first, thank you, Matthew. I think this really reflects the discussion that we had last week, and I'm pleased that you guys were able to reflect that into a map that looks like it works for us. And then so let's go and see what folks have to say. You said Kin and Meta, Rebecca?
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead, Kin.
Just took a quick look at this Heights extension area there. The area that you guys hatched in gray, that's a good 2 stories above the road. If you ever drive down Palmerville Road or any of the areas around there, there's a humongous gradation difference there, okay? The houses that sit there right now already at 2 or 3 stories above the street level. Adding 3 more levels up there, you're up to 6 stories or 7 stories up there. I'm not sure that's a place where we want to put housing on that side of the road. If you want to put some a little more density, I would look at the other side of the road where it's down another 2 levels. We really got to look at a cross section of that road, and you'll see that you have the road, sidewalk, and then on the south side it goes up like 3 stories. Then you get the first floor of the house. Then if you go on the north side, it goes down a story. Then you have buildings. So I think introducing something even more to the off balance on that road is just very peculiar right now. Okay. That's the first thing I want to talk about. And then I was wondering I know why we drew it back to 250, but one of the things that we had before was on Belknap, the area there. Some of that engaged.
Could you go to the could you show the east, Matthew? Sorry, go ahead, Ken. You've moved to the east, right, Ken? You're talking about, so yeah, there we go.
Yes, so, sorry about that.
No, that's right.
Some of the area there is where we took this and said, hey, let's include the bike path, and let's put some of this proposed new housing along the bike path, and that was one of the opportunities we had. Because that area there are large lots that do come across the bike path. So I'm just trying to look at certain areas when you actually look at the area, not just in the map. It's very easy to see it in the map and just sort of draw lines, but when you actually go and walk those spaces and know those spaces, it's a little different. And I just want to bring it up here for discussion. I'm not trying to say, yes or no, but let's talk about it. I just don't want this to slide like that. Those are the 2 things I wanted to bring up right now.
Okay, sure. Do we want to, Meta, did your comment sort of mesh with that, or should we talk about that a little bit and then you had something different?
No, it's related.
Okay, yeah, go ahead then.
No, I think it would be good to get all the comments out, and then we can kind of talk about it generally. So
Sure.
I was wondering, my first question for Matthew was that the Heights extension area doesn't seem to extend the 350 feet that we had talked about west of Pleasant Street. It gets much narrower there, and I was wondering why. So that was one thing. The other thing was, if the Center Heights area is now our 50% contiguous portion, is it necessary for East Arlington to be always contiguous? Or can some parcels drop out here
actually going, I think, greater than 350 feet. I think we started fairly rigorously at 350 feet, and then I think there was sort of a consensus that, oh, this doesn't make sense, let's just fill out the block. And this just seemed, you know, in the map, like a kind of natural way to do this without getting into sort of funny boundaries that go through irregular streets and that sort of thing.
Okay, I would just push back on that just in terms of, you know, equity of representation like throughout the town. The fact that that is so much less than the other area is an issue to me.
I'm confused
Yeah.
about the equity issue because we don't have 350 feet now all along Mass Ave and Broadway.
We do west of Pleasant Street.
Right, but we don't have it all the way through, so I'm confused about why this is an equity issue.
Equity could equally look like close to 350 feet along Mass Ave and Broadway and stuff.
Right, that's the part
Yeah,
that I'm
that's
confused
not what
about.
okay, so, fine, how about consistency? We had said before 350 feet west of Pleasant Street. And so my earlier objection last week was that there was nothing proposed in the Heights. And my expectation was that we were gonna have significantly more because we had voted to have a 350-foot offset west of Pleasant Street, and this is much reduced from that. This looks like 150 maybe.
Which map are you looking at?
I'm looking at that one right there.
515 Snails. Okay, so it's this one here.
Particularly when it gets to the line, it gets very thin, and there are a lot of single families there, and those lots are larger than other places, and so it seems like a lost opportunity. It doesn't seem consistent with our reasoning from before, and so I wanted to bring it up.
Definitely ones in the square box.
Yep.
I just mentioned that.
You're sort of saying, like, basically to Arnold Street kind of is what you were expecting to
I'm
see.
saying that's not a 350-foot offset from Mass Ave.
Yeah, okay.
So you're saying you think it should come up towards Arnold Street?
Yeah, I mean, we had discussed last time whether it can go, you know, north of Mass Ave or south of Mass Ave. I'm agnostic to that. I'm just saying that I think that we could go deeper.
Were you cognizant of what you said earlier? That
I heard what you said.
so if you go deeper, it only exacerbates what's there right now because the hill continues going up. It's I mean, that's a huge hill. So, I mean, if you start looking at the street and you start looking at just where the street is and the front door is on those units along Paul Revere Road and whatever that other road is that's parallel with Arnold Street, it's a good 25 feet higher than the sidewalk. So you're talking about a 3-4 story building on top of a 20-foot embankment or whatever you want to call it, and then things continues up. It's a huge hill. So you're building density and towers or tall massing on top of a hill.
I'm not as familiar with that area and the specific cross-section of the streets, and I don't know if that's the case for Paul Revere Road, if it's also the case in the other areas. So I can't respond to that.
Well, I'm making a statement that it is, and I'm saying if that's the case, then let's talk about do we want that or not? Okay, and if it was all flat, I wouldn't bring it up, and I would agree with you.
I mean, the map treats everything as though it's flat.
And we can't look at it that way. I think we should look at it areas by areas and look around each side. But you know, because of just the lack of time we have right now, I just want to look at certain areas that we have changed to see, do we realize when we changed it,
otherwise, I was going to suggest, why don't we let that marinate for a moment? And you had another on, was it Belknap, right? Was the other one?
I'm gonna immediately second it.
To you, Ken. Sorry. You can't see which one of you I'm looking at. Yes, Ken. I was talking. You were also talking about Belknap, right?
Yeah, that little neighborhood there comes close to the bike path, okay? And right now, all this housing that we're creating is all around Mass Ave and Broadway, and we don't really address how some of this could address the bike path and utilize the bike path as a vehicle for transportation besides just the bus routes. So I just want to bring that up as something to talk about in certain zones. So if you were to look at this, yes, it goes beyond the 250, 300 feet. I'm just wondering, but it's another spot area there that is good to look at because it's pretty close. If that's not the area, then we move down a little further, but I think we should engage the bike path somehow and not ignore it. Because right now the bike path sort of wanders around, and if we made an attempt to engage it, I think we should talk about it.
Is there an opportunity for us to do that in the Heights section? Maybe by going across the street, I'm looking at sort of the Forest Street here.
Can you say which map you're looking at?
I'm just, can we go to the Heights slide? That is the Heights slide. So here's our bike path, right?
Yes.
Do we have the same, so there's obviously, I just did a little, there's a great issue here. We could engage
The bike path continues right
here, like maybe, I know that there's some development parcels that we've looked at. Maybe there's a chance to engage with the bike path.
Are you pointing
different
at
section.
sort of where are you pointing at where Forest Street and like what's labeled on the map there? I see Pierce
East of
Street
the
and Fraser
reservoir.
Road.
South of Westminster Avenue, there's a big, yeah, there you go. Whoever's controlling that hand.
Yep.
I'm okay with that, if we want to look at that area too. I'm just saying, let's look at some areas where we can engage the bike path, that's all. I happen to chose Belknap, I don't know, because I lived there at one time, but, you know, I'm more familiar with it, but.
Well, I support the Belknap area, or in particular the around Marion Road, because that is an R1 district, and I have the zoning map in front of me. And so that is a light yellow district, and I think that there we will have a much better, a much higher probability of development, and it does span between the bike path and Mass Ave. So in terms of that particular area, I would agree.
I'm not opposed to the Westminster Avenue Lowell Street, but it may be less than 5 acres. And there's no way to connect it because of the commercial running along Mass Ave. Right? Don't we have that constraint?
I didn't look that far, okay? This is something you just brought up, so I can't answer that question right now. I did spend most of my time looking at Belknap, the one I mentioned, but I'm just saying, what Claire brought up, it's interesting too. I
want to be interested.
Right off the bat, I didn't say no. I just, don't know. I don't know enough about it right now to make a comment on it, on that one there.
I know we're asking to have our screen share, but could we look at the previous map, the 725 map, as it applied to East Arlington, just to see how it treated Belknap Street?
We should have that, right? In this packet?
Yeah, it should be
I
an
have
earlier
it.
slide in this packet.
It's essentially the same except for a couple of lots that are not included on the corner of Belknap and Linwood.
I don't think it's as aggressive as I had pointed out on the last map, but that's something I've been working on since then. I'm 2 meetings from you guys. So.
I'm not sure if Matthew heard our request. He's controlling the.
Yeah, which map do you want to look at?
Do we see the July 25th map, which is in the earlier slides of this presentation?
It's on
Slide
East
5,
East Arlington. So you're in the wrong. That's more of the Heights and Center.
Yeah.
You want to go? Okay.
I have scenarios that we looked at last time, but not the July 25.
Yeah, if we could just zoom in. Oh, this was last meeting. If we could just zoom in on the East Arlington part.
there if you just zoom in on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I think
That
when we
one.
it's
presented,
there,
Yeah.
yeah, over by Spy Pond.
Yeah.
And you just need to make it much larger. And then pan to the right.
A little more.
I think when we presented to the community
No, the other right,
in July,
the other way, the other direction.
Go east.
Oh, you want to look at the east, sorry. I thought
Yeah.
we were.
Yeah.
There you are.
Pan up a little.
when we presented to the community in July, we had a map that extended all the way, there was a zone that extended all the way to Spy Pond. There's a road that does a sort of a U shape and
Yes, that's gone now.
pond.
No, that's
Pond
a
Lane.
different
It
one.
was, yeah,
That's a different street.
You know, it would be a different map because we would be treating one area sort of with a different set of rules than we're treating the rest of East Arlington.
Correct.
Well, so, you know, in my mind, shrinking the districts wasn't necessarily the right thing to do, but since we've made that decision, I'm not sure that I would, you know, we'd have to have a pretty compelling reason to treat one area differently. Maybe it's because that's a lower density and we feel like it's being underused. You know, is that the argument? Is that,
The argument of the fact it's only use metaphor that I think that's fine. But I thought the fact it was engaging the bike path
that is a good,
and then having connectivity between the bike path and the bus routes. So that's one area that we can do that.
But
We're not-
those distances aren't terribly big. I mean, if you use our current map, you're not very far from the bike path. You're a block off the bike
I mean,
path.
arguably, people taking the bus are getting there on foot. Distance is more important to folks who are biking, who are a little bit more mobile.
I mean, I think also the density is already there already. If you look at the four buildings that are right on Spy Pond, those are 3-story, big buildings.
Right, that's a major development of some sort, right? What's that, apartments?
Yeah.
That's fine.
But
Is that what it's called, Spy Pond Apartments? What an original name.
but they're not small single-family houses.
No, no, they're
Big
and
blocks.
they're condos, right?
I don't know. Don't know.
Maybe they're
Doesn't matter.
condos, they're condos.
But if you look at the family of the neighborhood we have there, we're not really, you know, plopping it in the middle of something else, you know. So that's why I thought it was good. I don't know. I bring that suggestion. We're talking about it, and I'm happy about that. Like that we're talking about it right now. Okay, yes or no, but it's just I had the comment and I just brought it up as that.
so I have one other, before we, I had one other thing I wanted to introduce into the discussion. Matthew, sorry, if you could go to the current map and include East Arlington.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're working you very hard here. Appreciate it. One thing that I wanted to make sure that we were going to be okay with, and I wanted to suggest that we do. Actually, before you leave here, what I'm going to suggest that we do is add back in the pink from the B1 scenario behind the Mass Ave parcels, sort of, what's that street along Orvis? The first street behind Orvis? Yeah, basically connect that little section, basically make it contiguous through the south side of Mass Ave to the east, as it previously was.
You mean from Elmhurst to Orvis to whatever that's...
Edgerton to Chandler to Lake to Orvis, basically.
And what's your reason for that?
And the reason for that is, right, the redevelopment board has sort of indicated to us that they might, right, that they're likely going to remove some of those onesie twosie Mass Ave parcels. And today, I believe some of those onesie twosie Mass Ave parcels are being used to complete the continuity, and like that little area over there, south of Mass Ave to the east, I think would be less than 5 acres.
I'm not sure about that, Sanjay. I think when we're talking about one-story buildings, we're talking about one-story buildings right on Mass Ave, not a block in.
So for example, if the ARB decides to remove the blue parcel at the corner of Melrose and Mass Ave.
Melrose and Mass Ave.
I think the thing's right on it.
This one right here, right? Then that bottom right section, well, no, I guess it's still connected by Barnum Street, right? So that's still
What about
fine.
the rectangle to the west?
So then maybe I don't need to worry about this, and we're
Well,
fine.
I would support what you're saying, Sanjay, and not just for a technical reason of contiguity, but because I think this buffer, the neighborhood multifamily subdistrict, has always been an important concept. And in a lot of places, what we've done here in East Arlington is we've kind of removed that. So we end up with the bright blue parcels right up against a neighborhood. And I think adding a mid-height zone just behind that portion, it kind of completes the map nicely, but it also gives you that buffer zone where you might have some smaller scale multifamily buildings.
So you saying that'd be great?
I would support making that gray between Orvis Road and Edgerton.
Gray's 4 stories. Would you want it to be 4 or 3?
Hold on. We don't have any 3.
The gray, the neighborhood multifamily.
But Sanjay was saying to put in pink, and pink is 3 stories. So I'm just
No. Sir, I was just using that to illustrate which parcels I was talking about.
See, you probably need to think of colors and stories.
Can I just make a comment? Just
Please,
Sunday, I think that we can't speculate on what the ARB is going to do, and if we do things preemptively now, because we think the ARB is going to do this or that, they will certainly make changes, and then there will need to be tweaks to keep in compliance after the fact. But I would not support making those changes in advance, trying to anticipate what they're going to do.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
What do folks think of Vince's more holistic suggestion, right? That it really provides that buffer and completes what we're doing.
Well, this is what we discussed last week and what I was against, and that I think that that's exactly the decision we made last week.
Sure. Steve? Is that your hand, Steve?
I'm raising my hand on behalf of Teresa. They raised
thank
their
you.
hand.
Sorry. Yes.
Thanks,
Go ahead,
Steve.
Teresa.
I'm happy to let y'all run this one out and then add my comment after. So please continue, and thank you for the recognition, Steve.
Sanjay, can I ask for a suggestion here? I'm very happy that we're actually talking about this at this level now. This is a good thing about blocks and this is what I was hoping we get to. Can we turn that map and go to a Google map so I can see, so we can actually see what's there instead of just, I don't want to make a judgment based on a bunch of gray dots and some lines. I want to see the actual neighborhood. So who has control of the...
Sorry to interrupt. Maybe before you do that, if you are going to, I can add my comment, just because I intend to hop off in like 10 minutes. I just wanted to say that based on our interaction with the community today, there's a strong preference for, moving away from a little bit from East Arlington. So I'm really happy that the conversation last week that the working group had matched sort of the community's ideas about what would be preferable, and I think this map looks really great. And I wanted to just sort of make a suggestion that if you do intend to move towards the bike path, I would endorse more the point that was raised by Claire, but moving towards the bike path on the other side of town. That's really all I wanted to add.
That's awesome, and I want to second that we have looked a lot at East Arlington, but again, my earlier point, we haven't looked that much around the Heights, and so maybe we could look a little bit more in detail there.
Yep. So, I don't think, Ken, we're going to be able to to walk through right, Google Maps this evening. I don't think that's a realistic. Yeah, we do have other agenda items that we need to get done tonight, so I don't think that that's going to be possible. I do think that we should. It sounds. I don't hear any strong consensus around adding the additional behind Mass Ave there, right? So I think we'll sort of move on from that conversation unless other folks who haven't spoken yet are wanting to raise their hands and say something. And I think we should sort of return now to what we want to do in the Heights here. It sounds like, do other folks
table that. I'd like to table that right now and come back to it, and I will ask everybody to look at it after this meeting and see what the neighborhood is before we go. I don't want us to give up on it because we have no time.
Yeah, and again, you're going to get another crack at this too, right? As
oh yeah,
as an ARB member, right? So,
but I want to work with the group here. I'm not.
Right.
I'm not here to say, do what you want and I'll do something later.
No,
that's never been my intent.
I appreciate that. Just in terms of time, though, right? Because we do have to review the rest of the decisions here, and I do think we need to have, we are not meeting next week, right? And so we do have to have our sort of final map recommendation from this group tonight. I think we need to set that expectation, and I'm sorry I didn't set it a little bit earlier. So, returning to this Heights map, right?
Sanjay, I have my hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Yes.
I guess I have to tell you that my hand's up.
Yes, please do.
So, I want to say that I feel much more comfortable with the map that we're looking at today. That there is a very strong feeling in the community that, and this is my perspective from talking to people, from being in office hours more than once, that the town wants this spread out. And this is, given that we have decided to focus on the Mass Ave corridor, which I think is the right focus for this project, although I think that there's ample opportunity in the future to look at other aspects of Arlington for future development. But given that we looked at Mass Ave, we now have made a very nice, spread out, pretty much the same from one end of town to the other end of town. And I would be very reluctant to vote differently than I voted last week.
If I can just add on to that, I really want to say that I think UTL has done a great job here. We've given them a lot of direction and occasionally contradictory, and I think we're coming to something that is very close to, like you said, what we've been hearing from the community, combining a lot of different points of view. So some of these questions, I as to whether a particular parcel should be included or not, I think I'm comfortable with a little bit of leeway that UTL has taken in order to make a district that looks sensible. And I just wanted to say one thing with regards to the ARB, with us having been kind of formed by the ARB with a charge to create this plan, one of the things we could do is report back with a certain number of things that we've considered, but perhaps were not totally within our competence or our charge to fully decide. And one of those, for example, is do particular business parcels get included or not included? I think as a group, we've stayed in a way that I'm pretty happy with. We've stayed away from, cherry picking particular parcels. That might be something that is better within the scope of the ARB, given their kind of long history of, engagement with the town and its development process. I also think the ARB could be trusted to kind of understand the history of the town and its master planning process and so forth. And so what I'm getting at is a suggestion that perhaps one of the outputs of this group be a short memo to the ARB, just saying, summarizing what we've done, but also saying, here are a few things that we've heard or that we believe should be looked at and that we would like to pass on to you as a chart.
I think that's a great idea. Would you like to volunteer to draft it? Or honestly, I can, or should we just vote that we should create that? Actually,
I think it's actually a section of the report at some point.
Yeah.
This
Okay.
seems like a
It may just be a
report.
section of
Yep.
the report. And
This will be a section of the report. Yep.
And I think it's going to be kind of a collection of things that each of us say. So I wouldn't necessarily want to draft it solo, but as the report gets written, I think we can each add points.
Great. Yep. I think that's an excellent point. So at this point in the conversation, I'm looking to hear whether anybody has anything additional to add. Steve, yes.
Since I haven't said anything yet, I like the new map. I think it's turned out well. In terms of integrating what we had requested last week, and nice job.
Sanjay, can I, before we do any votes or looking at any more maps, can I just show you some blocks